The Sunday Times recently published its yearly list of the richest people in the United Kingdom. I ran across an article that focused on the people included that were involved in the gaming industry, and discovered that only 9 people out of the 1,000 on the list earned their wealth through anything gaming related. The wealthiest of those 9 is a man named Mel Morris, who came in at number 267, with a total worth of £515 million. That's around 630 million US dollars. It made me begin to wonder what his story was, and how he could become so wealthy by way of our most favorite pastime. He's most famous for his ownership of Derby County FC, a football club that competes in the second tier of British football, right below the English Premier League. It seems that Derby County has been his lifelong passion, but the story of his prosperity is related more to his infatuation with technology and his shrewd business sense that's allowed him to make investments in the right things at the right time. As a child, Morris was inspired by technology, and he was fascinated with science fiction and shows like Star Trek, Lost in Space, and Stingray. By the time he finished his primary education, he already knew he wanted to somehow work with computers. He wasn't sure what his goal was, but he was driven to do something that could bring his imagination to life. Technology was the best way to do that. He worked a few odd jobs, but finally got his chance to bring his aspirations to life when he landed a job as a trainee computer operator for a factory that produced brake shoes for cars. It's a far stretch from what his future had in store, but he had to start somewhere. He learned a great deal in his computer operator job and was soon proficient in writing software. That's when he left Derby to move to the United States and work for a giant computer company named Wang in Boston, Massachusetts. He became a project manager for the company, which made word processors, mini computers, and microcomputers. After 4 years working at Wang, Morris moved back to Derby so he could start pursuing his own interest. Using his knowledge and experience, he started a company back in England called Minitech. His company developed software that improved data storage and retrieval, and even wrote a piece of software that made computers access information more quickly. It provided a huge quality of life improvement for clients, and it was a massive improvement over data storage technology that people were previously using. Morris quickly made a lot of money off of his software, and his company grew to 120 employees, and he was profiting around £4 million a year. Interestingly, Morris made most of his money selling his software to his previous employer back in Boston. But when they closed up shop in 1992, Minitech lost a lot of its value and a lot of its profit. Morris didn't give up though. He transformed Minitech into a new company called mrixrt that produced software that monitored how office workers used their PCs. If any of you have ever worked a job that allowed your boss to see what you were doing on your work computer, you can partly thank Mel Morris. Unsurprisingly, large-scale employers loved the idea of spying on their workers to make sure they were doing their jobs, so mrixrt was a huge success. The company even caught the eye of a US business called Platinum Technology. They wanted to use Morris's software and sell it to the military. Seeing the potential of such a lucrative offer, Morris went back to the United States and spent time in Washington, D.C., trying to make sure the deal went through. After the dust settled, he was a senior vice president at Platinum, the company who bought him out. Always ambitious though, he left Platinum soon after to create an online dating site because he thought there was more potential there in the quickly growing World Wide Web. The dot-com boom and dot-com crash meant that his online dating site grew quickly, but then suffered from macroeconomic trends out of his control. So, he sold out and made himself a smooth £20 million. This is when Morris entered the gaming industry and turned himself into one of the wealthiest people in the entire world. He used the money from selling his previous businesses to help fund the video game development company, King. Morris said he became involved with King Digital by initially providing capital to the company when it was known as Midas Player. 2 of Morris's team members at the online dating site were looking for startup capital at that time when no other venture capitalist or private equity firms were investing much in online gaming. But Morris decided to invest in King. Around Christmas of 2003, Midas Player was building tournament-based online games, which required users to pay a price to enter an online pool tournament. Midas Player had deals in place with Yahoo and Microsoft at the time, but it wasn't profitable yet. That all changed very soon though. After shifting from the tournament-style setup to a league setup, Candy Crush was born, and Candy Crush was making $8 million per day at its peak. King had been developing one of the most profitable games of all time, and by 2014, the company had grown so much from Candy Crush that it was set to appear on the American Stock Exchange. At that time, Morris was well off. He was worth about £5 million, nothing to sneeze at. but his stake in King was valued at a whopping £518 million. King's stock was at an all-time high, and Candy Crush made Mel Morris one of the wealthiest men in the United Kingdom in just a few short weeks. In September of 2013, King.com had applied for an initial public offering. Its filing was made using allowances in the Jumpstart Our Business Startups Act to keep details of the IPO secret until it was to be officially offered. The IPO was backed by giants like Bank of America, Merrill Lynch, and JP Morgan Chase & Company. The IPO quickly gained interest in an era that was defined by burgeoning interest in social gaming. King completed its IPO on the 26th of March, 2014. Priced at $22.50 a share, the middle of its projected price range, the IPO valued the company at around $7 billion. About $500 million was raised through the sale of 22 million shares. It was the largest ever IPO for a mobile gaming company in the United States, even beating out Zynga and their ultra-successful Farmville. To celebrate the debut, Candy Crush mascots took to the New York Stock Exchange. Mel Morris was the company's largest shareholder with approximately 35 million shares, valued at around $820 million. By then, it was Morris who was the king. About a year and a half later, Activision Blizzard announced its plans to acquire King for $5.9 billion. Upon announcement of the news, USA Today reported that the deal gave Activision immediate access to the growing mobile gaming audience, the fastest rising sector in video games. On February 23, 2016, Activision Blizzard closed the deal and became the operator of the world's largest game network at the time, reaching around 500 million users in 196 countries around the world. As part of a large workforce reduction announced in February of last year, Activision has actually shut down King's studio in Seattle, Washington. While King has seen better days, Mel Morris continues to be one of the wealthiest men alive thanks to Candy Crush. Nowadays, he spends most of his time enjoying ownership of Derby County FC, although he's toyed with the idea of selling it too. In many ways, that defines Morris's career. He's never satisfied and he's always thinking forward. He's never hesitant to sell and start something new. But Derby County is now well and truly his biggest investment. In August of 2018, he revealed that he had invested more than £100 million in the club. In June 2017, Mel Morris was awarded a CBE in the Queen's Birthday Honors for his services to business and charitable services. And in January of 2019, he was nominated as the City of Derby's first ever ambassador for business and innovation. Mel Morris's story is a good example of how gaming as an industry functions. We spend most of our time talking about developers and adoring the people who actually make the games. But many of gaming's biggest success stories involve the entrepreneurial spirit. In Morris's case, he had the ability to provide the capital that King needed back in 2003. A return on his investment didn't happen for nearly a decade, but when it did happen, it changed his life forever. There are 8 others on the list, including King CEO Riccardo Zacconi. He's worth about £400 million himself, thanks to the success of Candy Crush. Maybe his story is for another time, but I hope you enjoyed this video about Mel Morris and how the gaming industry made him one of the most successful Englishmen alive today. If you enjoyed the video, be sure to share it. Thanks for watching, and as always, I'll see you guys on the next one.